Hey, what's up you guys? Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Mackie and I hope you're all having a great day today. So we are on day number 18 of 25 days of Christmas and I cannot believe we are so close to Christmas. This month has absolutely flown by and I'm actually really sad because I actually like the Christmas season more than I like the actual holiday. So it's just really sad for me knowing that the holiday season is almost over completely. But with all that being said, I hope you guys have been enjoying these past 18 days on my channel because I've been having a lot of fun. So this is basically your last chance to enter for the surfboard giveaway. I'm announcing the winner on the 20th. And once again, all you have to do is enter is subscribe and turn on all post notifications and then go to my video on December 10th and comment why you want the surfboard and what you would do with it and you're automatically entered. And the winner is announced on the 20th. So that is just in 2 days. But speaking of surfboards, so I'm gonna be telling you guys my top 3 scariest experiences I've had in the ocean while surfing. So quite a few pretty scary things have happened to me in the ocean, but I have some off the top of my head. Oh, and one last thing, I'm gonna be doing a paranormal Q&A video tomorrow because I always see so many questions on my videos about all things paranormal. Everyone has so many questions. So I'd love to be able to answer them for you guys. So if you have any paranormal questions literally about anything, go ahead and leave them down in the comments or you can tweet them at me. And I haven't used Twitter in so long, but I'm gonna start posting on there again. So my Twitter is just Mackie Albertson. It is a link down there as well. So you can either tweet them at me, comment them down below, email them to me, whatever. But I am gonna be doing a paranormal Q&A video either tomorrow or the next day, so start asking your questions and I'll answer all of them. But other than all that stuff, let's just get straight into the video. So as a lot of you may know, the ocean is a pretty scary place. I always see so many comments, my whole life I have heard it. There's one specific question and one specific statement that I have heard countless amounts of times from just random people, from all types of people, just everywhere. And the question is always, aren't you scared of sharks? And the statement is always, I'm terrified of the ocean. So I know that the ocean is so many people's biggest fear because, well, you don't know what's lurking underneath you. You can be swept out by currents. Just so many things can go wrong in the ocean, and so it's a reasonable fear that people have. Even one of my best friends was always terrified of the ocean. She like refused to go to the beach with me, but she's coming around now. But it is a very common fear that people have. And I'm gonna be telling you guys the top 5 scariest things that I've experienced, so if you are one of these people who is terrified of the ocean, I'm sorry, but this is probably going to just confirm in your mind why you're scared of the ocean and you'll probably not want to go in the ocean ever again. So I'm sorry for that in advance, but keep in mind everything we're about to say is extremely rare. It hardly ever happens. You have to be in the ocean every day to even experience one of these things. That's how rare it is. So it's just part of the sport that you get used to. It's just something that happens and you just gotta deal with it if you wanna surf. So we're gonna go ahead and get right into it. Okay, so I'm gonna start at number 3 as the least scary and work my way up to number 1 as the most scary. This one happened probably like 4 years ago. I was at the beach with this one I actually wasn't surfing. I had been surfing earlier in the day, but this specific part of the day I wasn't surfing. So my friend I was talking about, who was always terrified of the ocean, I finally convinced her to go down to the beach with me. A bunch of my friends were going because it was the last day of summer, so we all wanted to go to the beach. So we head down to the beach. I surfed for a while. It wasn't too big. It was only like 3 to 4 feet, but the specific spot we were at, there is a current, like pretty strong rips just pop up out of nowhere. If you don't know what a rip is, a rip current, so basically it's these currents that literally just pop up out of nowhere. They usually will suck out straight to sea, and so if you get caught, this is a learning lesson also for you guys. If you get caught in one of these rips, you do not want to swim towards the shore. That is the last thing you want to do because you're not going to be able to beat the current whatsoever. You're just gonna exhaust yourself, and that's how people drown. But if you're in a rip, all you have to do is swim parallel to the shore and you'll be out of it literally just like that. You'll be out of it within 10 seconds, I promise. Then you can swim to shore. And it happens pretty fast, but when it happens, you'll know because the water gets kind of, the sand in the water starts churning so it becomes brown, and they'll just see little ripples and you'll know you're in a rip. So my friend was always scared of the beach, and if she's watching this, she's gonna kill me. We went in the water and I was just so excited that she was finally in the water with me, and we were just like jumping around, messing around, and she was actually starting to enjoy herself for once. And I just kept saying, just like jokingly, I kept saying, we're floating out to sea, we're drifting out to sea. And I was just saying it like jokingly. And then next thing I know, so we're kind of like bouncing in the water. Next thing I know, I go down and my feet just didn't touch the sand. And I was like, okay, I can't freak her out because then she's gonna panic. So I said, okay, wait, we actually are drifting out to sea. And then right then she just started to panic, and we were in a rip getting sucked out, and she was thrashing all around. And this is another thing you don't want to do, but since I'm used to the ocean, I'm like, hey, like, just hold on for a second. And I was gonna let her like hold on to my shoulders for a second for her to calm down, but instead she started shoving me under, trying to use me to like as a buoy so she could get above the water. I'm about to drown, I can't do this. So I like swam kind of away from her, but we're getting sucked out really quickly into the waves and everything. The most messed up part, she's freaking out, she's crying. She's not a very strong swimmer, so it's not a good situation because I can't help her because she's just gonna shove me under the water. Luckily, or not so luckily, I look over to the side and I see my brother paddling out on his surfboard to go surf, and so I start yelling, Brandon, Brandon, she needs help. We're in a rip, she needs help, come over here, she needs your board. And he literally stops, looks at us and goes, no, and keeps paddling out. And to this day, I cannot tell you why he did this. Me and her still talk about this. I don't know if he thought we were joking or what, but he literally looked at us and said no. And I was like, you have got to be kidding me. So she's crying, and then some little girl on a longboard is kind of near us. And I was like, hey, like, can you come here real quick? Can she just like rest on your board for a second? And she's like, okay. So she paddles over, gets up next to my friend pushes her off the board and starts trying to crawl on the board, and I guess it kind of freaked out the little girl, so she paddled off. Then finally I see the lifeguards coming, so they swim out, they get her, and once I saw that they had her, I just swam out of the rip and went to shore. But it was pretty scary, more so because I didn't want something to happen to her, and it was honestly a really strong rip that day. I just didn't know what I could do to help or anything, so it was pretty scary. Okay, now for number 2. This one happened a couple years ago. So I live in Southern California. Now, so okay, this is gonna scare some people, but every summer in Southern California, all the great white sharks go and have their babies up in Northern California, and that's in the winter months. Well, in the summer months, they all make their way down from Northern California to Southern California in a specific spot that's about 30 minutes away from my house. So they have all their babies, and the parents and the babies all swim down the coast, and to get to the specific spot where they raise their babies, they have to swim through my town. They all swim from up north through my surf spot to get to their nesting grounds. There's always so many great white shark sightings around that time. They're usually babies, which are harmless, and there's never been any shark attacks here. There were just a couple people who got bumped off their surfboard, but they were fine. So with that being said, a couple years ago, I was out surfing, and for some reason I was the only person out that day. I don't know why, but I was the only person out, and I'm just staring out waiting for a wave, and all of a sudden I see this big splash, and I was like, oh, what was that? I thought it was a bird or a dolphin or something. So I see the splash, I see some thrashing around going on out there, and I was like, okay, I don't think this is a bird or a dolphin anymore at this point. And then as I'm watching, I see the fin stick up and start circling around something, and I was like, oh no, oh no, I know exactly what is going on here. And so if you don't know by now, it was a great white shark. And it wasn't a baby either. It was a big, like, mama. Like, it was a big fin. And so I'm out there all alone. It wasn't that far past me. It was probably, like, honestly 100 feet away from me. And so I'm sitting there, I'm like, what do I do? There's no waves coming. I'm gonna have to paddle all the way back to shore, and I'm just trying to, like, brainstorm, like, what I should do. Should I start paddling? Should I just stay still? I'm not really sure. And in the back of my mind, I knew it's, like, harmless. She probably wasn't gonna do anything to me. But just picture being out there all by yourself and there's just this shark fin going back and forth. So at that point, I'm starting to, like, get a little bit of anxiety, just because it'd be different if there was even one more person out there, but since I was the only one out there, it was pretty scary. But thankfully, out of nowhere, the lifeguard boat comes zooming up and starts circling around it, and a helicopter starts circling around it. So they luckily saw the shark was there, and when I saw them circling around it and everything, I was obviously so relieved. And then for some weird reason, don't ask me why, because I don't even know why, I just stayed out there and continued surfing. So I don't know why I did that. I probably figured it was safe enough since they had eyes on it. But yeah, that was number 2, just because the whole situation of me being out there completely alone with this giant mother shark. So that was number 2. With that being said, I want everyone to keep in mind that great whites are honestly pretty harmless. The only time they ever attack is when they make a mistake, which is super rare, extremely rare. And what they usually do, if they do bite someone, they just swim up to them, do a little nibble, realize it's not the food that they like, and then they swim off. They aren't really out to hurt people. They're not aggressive like that. So I don't want anyone to worry, especially here in Southern California. Don't let that scare you off. It's their home. They're gonna be out there no matter what ocean you go to. They're gonna be out there because that's where they live, but they're not looking for any trouble. So I just thought I'd say that so I don't scare everyone too much. But yeah, that was number 2. Okay, now finally, for number 1, the most scary thing that has ever happened to me while surfing. And you guys will hear why it was scarier than the shark. And also I want to say I've seen multiple sharks out there while surfing, but this one sticks out in my head just because I was alone out there. The other ones, there's been people surfing with me. It's been okay, but since I was alone, it was scary. Okay, so number 1. This one happened a couple years ago, and it was in winter, and there was a really big swell-in. It was huge. It was like 8 to 10 feet where I live, and it was just a massive swell in winter. So no matter what, when I, like, paddle out, when it's big like that, it's always like that underlying sense of being scared and anxiety and the adrenaline. Like, it's just scary overall, especially just trying to paddle out there, because if you get caught inside, you're getting all these waves on the head, and it's just like, just the whole time while surfing, it's like pretty scary when it's big like that. So I'm out there, I was surfing for like an hour, I caught a few good waves, and I just remember this one set came in, and it was huge. It had to be one of the biggest sets of the day, probably a 9-foot wave. And so I go to catch it, I'm paddling, and I stand up, and someone, I don't know if they weren't looking at me or if they were doing it on purpose, snaking me. Okay, so just a quick lesson real quick again. So there's something called priority while surfing, and that means basically whoever is on the whoever is closest to the peak of the wave. So the peak is where the lip breaks first. Whoever is closest to that peak has priority. no one else is supposed to go on that wave at the same time. So basically there's people called snakes who will cut people off because they want the wave and they just don't care, and it's a really messed up thing to do, and people get in fights in the water, and yeah, it's crazy. There's all these rules that no one really talks about. But so I had priority. I was closest to the peak. I'm paddling, I stand up, this guy full on snakes me, and this is right as I'm standing up and I'm at the highest point of the lip. And this day was pretty hollow. I'm having to explain all these terms, but hollow means when you see barrels, you know, when a wave barrels, depending how big the barrel is itself, that's how hollow it is. So it's just like the hollow wave. So that means that there's more of a steep drop when you stand up, and you kind of have to airdrop sometimes. So it's more difficult. Those kinds of waves are way more difficult than just a rolling wave that is pretty like flattish. And so I'm going to stand up, and I see this guy going to snake me at the same time, and he was in this position where if I were to drop down the wave, I would have landed directly on him, which could have been really dangerous, for me and him, but I'm thinking more about myself. So he's snaking me, I'm standing up, I see that he's snaking me, and I kind of get hung up on the lip, so I kind of get sucked to the top of the wave instead of wanting to be down towards the center of the wave. So as the wave goes and breaks down like that against the flat water like that, I'm basically in that lip. So the motion of the wave, I can't even explain this. Basically, it's a 9-foot wave. I'm stuck at the top. I fall 9 feet with the lip of the wave and all the force pushing down on me from 9 feet tall. And I remember just falling in the air, and my board just so happened to be at the bottom of the wave, turned sideways, so the rail is sticking straight up. I fall, land directly down on the rail on my ribs right here. Picture all that force from 9-foot fall plus all the force of this wave pushing you down on this little rail directly into your ribs. So I fall on the rail of my board. I hear a crunch. I get pushed down to the bottom of the sand, and at the same time my head whips back and hits against the sand, and I just remember laying at the bottom with all the pressure of this wave just holding me down against the sand, and I'm just laying flat there. And in that case, you never want to fight it, ever. Never fight the wave. You have to let your body go limp and wait for all the pressure to pass, and then you can just push up off the ground and go straight up. Because if you try to fight it, you're going to lose all your energy and all your breath. Just remember laying on the sand just in pain. I know I can't breathe either way, but it felt like all the air was just pushed out of my lungs when I hit my board. So I have no air supply. Usually before I get pushed under, I'm able to get one breath in to hold, but I have no air in my lungs at all. And I just remember it felt like forever I was down there. It probably was only like 6 seconds, but that's a long time to be under. And so I remember having to push up, and of course it was the first wave of the set, so there were 2 or 3 more after that, and I just kept getting pounded on the head and pushed back down, and I couldn't get a full breath in. I'm in excruciating pain on my ribs, and I seriously was like, I'm gonna drown. Like I cannot hold my breath anymore. I'm gonna pass out. I can't do it. I felt all the pressure building in my face, and my lungs were burning, and finally at the last second I remember the pressure clearing and me able to push up off the ground and just get a breath in. And I remember pushing up and my whole body was just shaking. I could hardly like grab my board and go into shore. And so I had to paddle into shore, and my rib was just like killing me. And I remember getting to the sand and standing, and my legs were just shaking. I seriously like thought I was gonna drown. I didn't think I could hold my breath any longer. If I was under for even probably 5 seconds more, I think I would have passed out. So I hobble up to my car and I change and I go home because my rib is killing me. So I go to the doctor, and turns out I broke my rib when I landed on my board. So that was super fun. But that was definitely the scariest and most memorable experience I've ever had surfing, just because of how painful it was and how scary it was. Oh, it was just honestly so terrifying. So that is definitely my number one. Yeah, those are my top 3 scariest experiences while surfing. I have a few more that I could talk about, but they're long stories. So let me know if you want a part 2 of this video, and I will tell you those other stories because they are absolutely insane, but just too long to fit into this video. So yeah, comment down below if you want to see that. But I'm gonna wrap up the video there. Make sure you comment your questions for the Q&A because I'm gonna be answering so many of them. So comment those down below. But other than that, I hope you guys did enjoy the video. Subscribe if you are new here and follow me on all my socials. But other than that, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will catch you tomorrow. Peace.